Alrighty, here's my audience. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Jack's joining us on FaceTime. Deva, if you want to go ahead and get started. Alright, so this is my speech on the Aboriginal culture of Australia. I'll go ahead and get into it. Imagine landing in Australia for the first time, not in Sydney or Melbourne, but the outback or a remote northern territory. You reach out to shake someone's hand, but they look away. You ask a direct question and get silence in return. You might assume you're being ignored, but in fact, you're being respected. Today, I want to introduce you to the communication practices of Aboriginal Australians, how they speak, how they listen, how they relate, and how these practices reflect a culture that's more than 65,000 years old. Understanding Aboriginal communication is not just important for travel, it's essential as our world becomes more interconnected. We can't build bridges with people if we misread silence or dismiss unfamiliar customs. Respect begins with learning. I've spent time researching Aboriginal culture, and what surprised me most wasn't what's said, it's what wasn't said. Their way of speaking and interacting are often very different from what we're used to in Western cultures. Today, I'll explore three key areas: the role of silence in nonverbal communication, the importance of storytelling in kinship and communities, and what travelers and outsiders should do to avoid offense. So, storytelling, songlines, and kinship. Much of Aboriginal communication is oral and deeply symbolic. Stories are not just entertainment, they're tools for teaching, connecting, and surviving. According to the National Museum of Australia, Aboriginal knowledge is passed through storytelling, performances, and art. A story might teach survival techniques, explain geography, or guide moral guidelines. These are often referred to as Dreamtime stories, which explain creation and law. Also central to communication is the kinship system, which determines not just family roles, but who can speak to whom and how. You might be prohibited from addressing someone directly due to your relationship. Elders are key communicators. They hold sacred knowledge and are often the ones who speak on behalf of the group. Silence speaks volumes. In many Aboriginal communities, silence is not awkward, it's meaningful. According to linguistic anthropologist Diana Eads, writing for the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies, silence in Aboriginal culture often shows respect throughout thoughtfulness or emotional control. It's especially common when meeting someone new or when elders are present. So if you're speaking with an Aboriginal person and they pause before answering or don't answer at all, they may not be dismissing you. They're processing what you've said and waiting for the right moment. Eye contact is also used differently. In many communities, avoiding direct eye contact, especially with elders, is a sign of respect, not dishonesty or avoidance. Do's, don'ts, and etiquette. So if you're planning a trip to an Aboriginal community, or even just hoping to interact respectfully, what should you know? Jens Korf, an Indigenous instructor and founder of the site Creative Spirits, says one of the biggest cultural missteps outsiders make is talking too much or too fast. In Aboriginal culture, people often take turns slowly, and silence is not to be filled, but respected. Here are a few respectful guidelines. Don't ask direct personal questions, especially early on in the relationship. Avoid physical contact. This includes handshakes or hugs. And don't interrupt or speak over others. Always acknowledge elders, even if they are not speaking. Respect sacred sites and stories. Not all knowledge is meant to be shared or understood. If you're unsure, it's always better to observe and ask gently rather than to assume. So what have we learned? Aboriginal communication is rooted in deep listening, respect for silence, and storytelling as a sacred practice. Their customs may seem subtle and unfamiliar, but they're guided by values of community and spirituality and harmony with the land. We've explored how silence can be respectful and stories preserve knowledge, and how etiquette is shaped by ancient kinship systems. By learning these customs, we don't just avoid offense, we honor a culture that has thrived for a millennia. As future travelers, co-workers, or even neighbors of these people, it's not enough to mean well, we need to understand well. Thank you for taking time to listen about a culture who has mastered the art of listening itself.
Very good.